all love a good underdog story, right? That's why there's so many movies that are based on this very plot line. And so I thought it might be fun as we got started today to kind of test our underdog knowledge, okay? If you think that you have a good grasp on movies that feature underdogs, then I need your help today. And because it's Father's Day, I'd love for it to be a few guys. We can have up to 4 contestants here. Last service, they didn't want to play my game. But I said, I know 10:30 will come through for me today. I know they will. So 4 contestants. There is no prize except for bragging rights until next Father's Day. I mean, that's enough for me, but I can call on people. You're being nominated, AJ. Oh, Andy's coming. Come on, Andy. Pick your favorite color. All right, there you go. Come on, David Bell. You stuck around long enough for it. You get to come up. He said he was going to have to sneak out to go to the airport, but since you're here, oh, come on, Mr. Newman. All right. Now, these are movies, underdog movies. I'm going to give you clues. I'm going to feed you just like one-word answers. I'm going to need your all's help to see who buzzes in first. Sometimes it might be hard for us to tell, but each buzzer does feature a different sound, and that's just fun in and of itself. So let's just go down the line. There you go. Yours just says whatever you're about to say is wrong. Okay. All right. So there's 4 clues for each of the movies, okay? And so I'll slowly give them to you. If you think you know what it is, buzz in. Disqualified sprinter. Winter. Jamaica. Bobsledding. Cool Runnings. Who's seen this classic? It's a good one, right? All right, one point for Scott Newman. Okay. Yeah, who would have thought a Jamaican bobsledding team could climb their way to the top? All right, here's a new one. New Kid. Crane. Sweep the Leg. Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off, right? You've got Cobra Kai taking on these 2 guys. One side, no mercy. One side, fighting with honor. And, of course, the little guys win. Okay. All right, guys. Give Scott some competition here. Here we go. Maintenance crew. Irish. Football. Rudy! Rudy, who has this dream of playing for Notre Dame, and he gets onto the maintenance crew. He eventually gets to be a tackle dummy, and they let him dress for the last game. Rudy. Okay. So you could tie here, David Bell, or you guys could step in. All right, you ready? Last one. Jimmy. Basketball. Hickory. Gene. Hoosiers! All right. I don't have a tiebreaker. Does anybody want to give clues for a tiebreaker? If not, we have 2 winners. We have Scott Newman and David Bell, our champions of the day, of our underdog stories. Thank you all for playing. All right, Reed, you got one? What is it?
All right, get up there, boys.
Rat? Chef? Hey! That's a good movie, though. I like that one. All right, again, who doesn't love a good underdog story? Hollywood's made millions of dollars off that storyline. However, there is an underdog story that all of these more modern stories kind of go back and find their roots in. It's an ancient story that's actually referenced in the last underdog movie that we threw out there for our answer, Hoosiers. As they're kind of going into this big tournament, this little team from a small town against this big, strong team from a city, the preacher comes in and he references this very biblical story. And so let's take a look together.
Anybody have anything they want to say?
Yeah. Let's win this and for all the small schools who never had a chance to get here.
Okay.
I want to win for my dad. Let's win for Coach, who got us here.
Thank you.
With God of heaven, it is all one. To deliver with a great multitude or a small company. For the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of hosts, but strength cometh from heaven.
And David put his hand in the bag and took out a stone and slung it. And it struck the Philistine on the head, and he fell to the ground. Amen.
David and Goliath, the greatest underdog story ever told. Or is it? What if that's all a matter of perspective? What if that's not all there is to the story? What if better understanding how David was able to overcome this overwhelming obstacle in his life can help us learn how we can overcome the overwhelming obstacles in ours? Let's dig into this story together today and see what we can discover. If you have your Bible or your phone or an iPad, you can pull up 1 Samuel chapter 17. There we find a familiar scene. It's a familiar scene because the Israelites and the Philistines, they have been fighting each other for generations at this point. If you pull up a map, you kind of begin to instantly understand why. You can see that the Israelites had come into the promised land and they had conquered almost all of it except for this little part, right? So the Israelites, they would love to have this land, but the Philistines, they're not going to go easily. They're not going quietly into the night. They have a foothold here, and they would like to hold on to their nice little property beside the sea. They want to retain their identity. And so they fight over and over and over. There's all these clashes that happen. But on this particular occasion, the Philistines, they have positioned themselves up on one hill, and the Israelites have positioned themselves up on another, leaving this big valley between them. This is the actual valley where it's believed that this took place, Elah Valley. And so they're both in their positions, and neither of them want to come down. And anybody that has just a basic understanding of military strategy understands why. Which has the advantage, the low ground or the high ground? The high ground, right? So neither side, they want to move, because to do so would be like, putting yourself in danger's way. And so we're told in verse 4, a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor, bronze, weighing 5,000 shekels. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels. His shield bearer went ahead of him. So let's stop here and put this into perspective. They throw out all these numbers and all these units of measurement that, let's be honest, they don't mean anything to us. We don't know what a cubit or a span is. We don't know what shekels are. And so let's see if we can put it into modern day terms. If you were to do, I don't need you this service. I got a better idea. Jeremy even couldn't reach this height. I had him stand on the chair. Goliath was believed to be 9 feet 9 inches tall. So Jeremy, even standing on the chair and reaching as high as he couldn't quite get there. But that's pretty tall, right? But it's still hard to maybe grasp how tall 9 foot 9 inches are. So I was wondering if we could measure it by like, how many of our youth does it take to reach the height of Goliath? So do either of the Newman boys want to participate? Lincoln, do you want to participate? We can start with you two, and we'll come back if we need another one. We're going to have to lay on the floor, okay? Can you lay on the floor? Lincoln, can you come lay? Put your feet there. Okay, let's see. A Lincoln and a Brian is Oh, wow. Y'all actually get it together. So this is 9 foot. Lincoln, stand up now where you are. Grab the end. 9 feet, 9 inches. That's how tall Goliath is. And it's almost exactly like a Brian and a Lincoln. All right? So, yeah. No, he's this tall. Yeah. All right. Great job, guys. Thank you very much for helping us understand how tall he was. So instead of 6 cubits and a span, now we know he's a Lincoln and a Brian. He also, it's said that he is wearing armor that weighs 5,000 shekels. That's about 125 pounds. So essentially, this 9 foot, 9 inch guy is walking around wearing the weight of an entire person on his body, like it's nothing at all. And then it says he has a spear that weighs 600 shekels, which is about 15 pounds. And that's just the tip of the spear, actually. So think about that. With a spear that has a head that weighs 15 pounds, you wouldn't even have to pierce a person with that thing. You could just like conk them in the head, right? All of this is listed out for us to give us this picture. Hey, guess what? This guy is super intimidating. He is huge. And so it goes on in verse 8. It says, Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us. Then the Philistine said, this day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other. So Goliath, he's challenging the Israelites to something that was known as a battle of champions. This wasn't uncommon in that day and time. Whenever you would face off in battle, of course, that would mean a major loss in life. But sometimes in order to avoid that, what they would decide to do instead is like, you pick one person, we'll pick one person, and they'll fight. And whoever wins for their side, wins for their army. And so here's Goliath, all 9 foot, 9 inches of him, going out and yelling for someone to come and meet him, to fight him hand to hand, face to face, mano a mano. Are there any volunteers in the room that would like to go and face him, right? He's asking for someone to step up and to decide the battle right then and right there. But in verse 11, this is what it says. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. Some of the other translations say that they lost all hope, or they were deeply shaken. All the Israelites, from the king of Israel all the way down, they looked at Goliath and they could not get past his gargantuan size. They could not see beyond his rippling muscles. They could only see defeat and difficulty. So much so that in verse 16, it tells us that for 40 days, the Philistine, he came forward every morning and every night, and he took his stand. So 80 times at this point, this giant has come out and he has yelled at the army of Israel. He's asked for someone to come out and fight. And 80 times the people of Israel have turned and ran. You know, so often I feel like we can get stuck in that same kind of place. You know, we're presented with an obstacle and we become paralyzed just by the sheer size of it. We look at it and we say, it's just too big. It's just too scary. It's just too complicated to take any action at all. We get this tunnel vision where all we can see is this insurmountable challenge. And when that is all that we can see, then yes, we do get terrified. Yes, we do get dismayed. We do lose hope. We do find ourselves deeply shaken, just like all the Israelites except for one. After 40 days, someone new encounters this very same obstacle. Someone new comes out and they hear that same call from that same giant. They watch as Israel turns and runs. But this person, he sees the situation in a totally different way, from a totally different perspective. It is David, this little shepherd boy at this point, who, yes, has been anointed to become king by the prophet Samuel, but who up to this point, as we're reading along in the story, only has on his resume two things, and that is being a shepherd and being able to play the lyre well. Not necessarily the qualifications of a great warrior, right? And so his father, he sent him not to fight. He sent him to check on his brothers. But as he's coming, not with a sword, but with essentially a charcuterie board. He's got cheese and he's got bread, right, to deliver to them. He hears the growl of Goliath. And he watches yet again Israel turn and run. But in that moment, he is not dismayed. He is not terrified. In fact, he's kind of dumbfounded. He turns and he says, David asked the men standing near him, what will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? David does not see a giant. He sees some guy who has the gall to insult his God, who needs to be put in his place, who needs to be taken care of. He doesn't see an insurmountable obstacle, but he sees instead an unbelievable opportunity standing right there in the valley. He's the only one in this situation who is somehow able to get creative and to look forward rather than being paralyzed and cowering down. He alone somehow does not get that tunnel vision. He is somehow able to see another path that does not lead to sure defeat, but rather to certain victory. And so in great confidence, David goes before King Saul, and he says this, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him. David is ready to step up without hesitation. But guess what? King Saul is still stuck. He's still stuck, still seeing this situation, still seeing the magnitude of this obstacle. He's still looking at this challenge from his own very limited perspective. And as he's looking at this obstacle and he's looking over here at little David, he is pretty sure that David is not his solution. But David, he persists. He doesn't give up. He says to King Saul, your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. David, again, is not shaken. He knows that God is with him. And finally, he wears King Saul down. King Saul consents. But in the very next step, he reveals something about himself. He does something that's very telling. His first reaction to David saying that he will fight this giant is to go and get his own armor and to try to put it on this little boy named David. It's way too big. It doesn't fit him at all. But again, tunnel vision. For Saul and the rest of Israel's army, there's only one way to fight this guy.